Hi guys, I'm Kate and this is Jeremy, and we have an issue. We're bored, very much bored. And when I'm bored, I am very impulsive. So now, because we're entering the Halloween season next month, well, technically it's this month, so I'm gonna start a brand new series called 4 Mysteries Asia, where we talk about cryptids, stories, cases, everything you might find interesting. Except Jeremy. Jeremy doesn't find that interesting. So to kick off this Halloween month, I'm going to tell you about a certain ghost in Southeast Asia. Actually, this ghost is found in two countries, which is Malaysia and Indonesia. So let's dive into it. So imagine yourself walking through the forest in the middle of the night, pitch dark, and you see a man or woman. It actually is not gender specific, hopping through the darkness in white cloth. Its presence itself makes you paralyzed in fear. Its eyes blood red, and then it just stares at you and disappears into the night. This being that you found or described might be a pocong. So what is a pocong? So in Malaysia and Indonesia, our culture is very much revolves around Islam. And when we bury our dead, we wrap them in a cloth called kain kafan. And before we bury them, it's practice that we should untie the bindings on the person, which should be around the knees, the legs, and also around the waist and arms. Failing to do so and leaving the body for 40 days will cause this person to not be able to move on to the afterlife, and they will come back as a pocong. A pocong can actually be found nearly everywhere, but mostly they're actually found in they're found in forests, abandoned buildings, anywhere you think you shouldn't be. They're probably there. So, what are the behavior patterns of a pocong? So, a pocong actually lives in a colony, and some believe that certain colonies have around 40 pocongs living in them, around 60 to 40, which is a hell of a lot. Pocongs do not usually harm people or do anything to harm them physically, because pocong is actually more of a death omen, a sign or reminder that we should treat our dead with the right practice and respect them. Most pocongs are actually believed to approach people wanting them to cut off their bindings and free them so they can move on to the afterlife. But we'll get into that later, but its powers and what it wants doesn't really go hand to hand. But also, pocongs are also known to haunt and attack people who bother or disrespect places of the dead. So, let's say you encounter a pocong. What should you do? Okay, most methods to get rid of pocong revolves around religion, practices, and beliefs. But here's two methods that does not involve any religion or beliefs. You need to cut off the bindings of pocong from the top, waist, bottom, everywhere, because the kain kafan wrapped around them, as long as it's bound to their bodies, they will not be able to move on to the afterlife. Okay, second method, and the method I do not recommend: hugging them. Okay, imagine this. You see a person or who could be a maniac, I'm not sure, wrapped in cloth inside a jungle in the middle of nowhere, staring at you with blood-piercing eyes. And if your first thought is, hey, I should hug this thing. So, would you hug a bear? Would you hug a mountain lion? Would you hug a tiger? this if hugging it is your first line of thought, I recommend you get help. Okay, anyways, it's said that by hugging them, they would feel more at peace and makes it easier for them to move on to the afterlife. Actually, cleansing them and helping them move on to the afterlife actually has been told to bring fortune and good luck to the people who help them to move on to the afterlife. Sightings, one of the most famous pochongs out there, one that's actually has been given somewhat of a name, Pocong Merah of Kaliboyong, which is a river in Indonesia, Yongkatar. So this pocong is said when it was alive was a shaman, a very powerful shaman who, because of how powerful he was feared by the villagers, and ultimately this fear is what led to the villagers killing him. And instead of properly burying him, they cut him into chunks and threw him into the river. The result is one of the most feared and powerful pochongs ever had existed comes to life. The Pocong Merah is one of the most scariest and powerful pocong variants out there, because a Pocong Merah isn't just some your regular ass pochongs. No, they do not seek you to help them move on into the afterlife. A red pocong seeks vengeance. It is said that this specific Pocong Merah is the leader of more than 40 other pochongs in the area around the Kaliboyong River. Okay, people nowadays won't even let others go even remotely near the Kaliboyong River at night. So I mentioned that the pocong, specifically the red pocong, can attack people. Let me tell you this. All pochongs actually have powers. They actually have 3 powers, which is 1, they actually have the power of instant transmission like Goku. So basically, they have the power of teleportation. They can teleport to any area within a blink of an eye. Some say it's not teleportation, it's just that they're fast as hell. Okay, what is the other power of the pocong? Well, it's said that the pocong also has the power to float above the ground, so it can approach people without making a sound. Instead of making like those hopping sounds they'll make hopping towards you, they would instead float towards their target, not making a single sound. And by the way, there's actually a viral sound on TikTok, of all places, of people saying this is the sound of the pocong. But here's the thing, some people say that's actually the sound of a fox, but I digress. I need more information on that, so yeah, let's move on. The third power of Pocong, which is what it uses as its main form of attack, would be the power to inflict curses onto people. Once a Pocong inflicts a curse onto a person, it can cause either paralysis or death. So they don't tend to attack you physically, but there are stories where they say that they will choke you with their kain kafan, which makes me question like how, if you can move around your kain kafan like that, wouldn't it just be like make more sense for you to just use it to unbind yourself so you can move on to the afterlife? Yeah, it doesn't really make much sense, but it is what it is. Since I mentioned there's a Pocong Merah, I should mention to you that there's actually more than one type of Pocong. There's 5 I know of. One is the regular type of Pocong, like the normal one, the white cloth, everything, dead face, red eyes. You get the idea. And then there's the second one, which is I also mentioned the red Pocong, which is a vengeful version of the Pocong. They seek vengeance. They will not even hesitate to harm you if they found you. Okay, and then there's the third version, which is the black one, the Pocong Hitam. They say that these Pocongs died from hatred or being hated, and it shows on their cloth. The hatred they experience in life, or they are experiencing even after death. Which just means that if someone dies, please just stop hating them. And if they still hate you even after death, I guess that's really on them. Fourth version is actually the type of Pocong that you rarely hear, but in Malaysia at least, I hear a few stories of this. Imagine yourself walking through a village road in the middle of the night. Then you rest on a beam. At first you think, this beam seems like a normal telephone pole or something. But when you look up, you see a face, and the pole was covered in cloth. This is one of those infamous tall ass Pocongs, reaching 7, 9, 14 feet tall. Why are they so tall? I do not know. And some of these stories I actually read from some magazines. I wouldn't say there's anything special about them, but there's one of, but I guess these are some type of Pocongs you can find out there. And then there's one that I actually never heard about it in person before. The translation, Old Pocong. Basically, it's a Pocong that has aged through centuries and have been forgotten. So they to hang around graveyards and all that. And they are actually Pocongs that have been left for centuries buried improperly. And because of that, they roam around graveyards hoping that someone or something would help them move on to the afterlife by unbinding them from their kain kafans. So you see the theme here. What binds a Pocong to the mortal plane is basically just their kain kafans, I guess, in a way, and also vengeance and hatred. But you see the theme that all Pocongs wear the kain kafan, and it's what's stopping them from moving on to the afterlife. This is actually why people, especially in Malaysian and Indonesian culture, we find it important to make sure the ceremony of burying our dead goes smoothly, and everything needs to be done perfectly. So after me telling you about the story of the Pocong, how they came to be, what they are, what they do, why they're doing it. So if you have your own personal experience in this particular story, please do leave them in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe if you love this episode. And I'm probably gonna make another one in the future. Don't forget to like this and share it to your friends and families. And get ready for Halloween, I guess. See ya.